All right, this is problem number 41, and it's our first negative binomial problem. So when it comes to negative binomial, don't worry too much about what's success and what's failure. Just pick a letter and stick with it. It's important to understand how the formula works and why it works instead of just trying to match all your numbers and letters and plug everything in correctly. So what I've chosen is I'm going to let R be my months with an accident and let K be my months without an accident. And then the probability of a month with an accident is about 60%. And we want to find the probability of at least 4 months without an accident before 4 months or the fourth month with an accident. So that kind of language right there is your key to know that it's a negative binomial. And let's kind of look at it visually for just a moment before we run the numbers. Month with an accident is going to be an X, and month without an accident is going to be an O. And we want the probability of at least 4 months without accidents, at least 4, before we get to our fourth accident. So that is one way that could happen. We've gotten to our at least 4. It could be something like this. We could have no accident, then no accident, then an accident, and then maybe another accident. And so you sort of ask yourself, well, what's got to happen next? Can I have my fourth accident? No, we have to have at least 4 months without an accident before we can get to the fourth accident. So when we do probability problems, a lot of times the challenge is like, well, what are we actually counting up? And I think in the case of the negative binomial, it's a little bit harder to see. So that's what this is for here. It could be we have 3 months without an accident, and then 3 months right in a row with an accident. And in order to be included in the set of things that we're counting, we have to have our fourth month without an accident first before we can then have our fourth accident month. And it says at least 4 without. So we could have a whole series more before we get to the fourth. But the key thing to understand here is we have to have at least 4 months without an accident before we get to our fourth accident month. Okay, so that's what we're counting up with our formula here. Let's go ahead and run the numbers. I've said R is the month with an accident, and K is the month without an accident. So we've got R plus K minus 1 and R, and then that's going to be probability raised to the R times complementary probability raised to the K. So R plus K is the number of cases or the number of trials, and so let's plug in things that we know. And the K months without an accident, we have to have at least 4 months without an accident first. So that K is actually constant. It is constantly 4. We have P to the R times 1 minus P to the 4. But of course we know P is 60%. So we can rewrite again, and we can simplify here to just R plus 3. 0.6 to the R times 0.4 raised to the K, which we've established is 4. So this 0.4 to the 4, that is our 4 months without an accident before we get to our fourth month with an accident. So that is constant right there. And then we're just going to count up how many months with an accident are mixed in to these first 4 months without an accident. So could be there are 0, which is just going to simplify to 0.4 to the 4th. And that's this case right here. There were no months with an accident mixed into our 4 months without an accident. It could be that there is 1 month with an accident. and that would be 4 choose 1 times 0.6 times 0.4 to the 4. And let's sort of think that one through, right? We could have one accident mixed in to our first 4 months without, but that one accident mixed in to our first 4 months without could happen one of 4 ways. That's why we have the 4 choose 1 on there. Could be there were 2 accidents mixed in. So that gives us 2 plus 3, 2, 0.6 squared times 0.4 to the 4th. Of course, that simplifies to 5 choose 2. Okay. And again, there's a lot more cases here. 5 choose 2 is 10, so I'm not going to write them all out. But let's just think about, what we're talking about here is we have 2 accidents mixed in with our first 4 non-accidents. And of course, that could come in a variety of different ways, but this is what we're counting up with this expression right here. And there would be 10 or 7 other combinations, but we don't want to write out a whole bunch of combinations. We want to stick to the formula. We just want to understand the formula. And before we get to our 4th accident, we could have 3 other accidents mixed in with our first 4 months without accidents. So 6 choose 3. And let's see. This would be an example of that right here, right? We have 1, 2, 3 accident months mixed in with our 4 months without an accident before we got to the 4th month with an accident. Here's another example. Could go like this. As long as we have 3 accidents mixed in with our first 4 without, then we can count that case. So if you add up this, these 4 right here, you add those together and you get something that's pretty close to 0.29, and so you choose D. So that's the negative binomial, and hopefully with a little bit more context and explanation. So when you're looking at the answer key and you're wondering, well, why are the numbers what they are? This is the reason.